Well, it's another time for Snacks and a Story. I'll tell you about my rediscovering haunted houses, I guess I'll call it. And this is Haribo Witch's Brew. You get 3 different potential gummies, but they could be sweet or sour. So the first one is the lemony looking guy. Actually, it's not necessarily. It could be monstrous mango. If it's sweet, if it's sour, it's jack-o'-lemon. Okay? I'm guessing mango. Very hard gummies. Very chewy ones. Okay, this is going to be either sweet, Erie apricot, or sour, orange fright. Let's hope for Erie apricot. Lovely, it's apricot. They're rough ones to try. You can't even bite through them. Okay, we've got, it will either be raspberry scream or daddy black currant. So raspberry or black currant. I don't know what black currant tastes like. So. And that's it for these. Feels like I got sweet again. Oh, those were sour. Good. So let's talk about. Last time I was talking about haunted houses, I was a kid, or I guess high school. I made one, but that was it, and that wasn't even going. That wasn't haunted. That was just a silly little thing we did. Pretty much for some reasons, I guess teenage years, discovering girls, growing up. Things like that. I didn't knowingly do it. I lost interest in haunts. I lost interest in certain types of movies like Godzilla and the monster movies and comic books. I stopped reading them. I can certainly say today I didn't grow out of them. I just stopped. Because in the late 70s, there was a resurgence of these things. And that was towards the end of my high school times. And in 78, a Superman movie came out. I loved Superman. My dad loved Superman. But neither of us had read Superman in over 10 years at that time. But we went to the movie together. Actually, the whole family went. And I remember, it was just so awesome to see Superman and to remember how much I liked that stuff. I didn't really pick up comics, but I did have a resurged interest in superheroes and just Pez toys and things that I would see about the heroes. Star Wars came out around the same time, and that reinvigorated my love for these things. And the slasher movies were coming out at that time with Halloween, and I realized this was a new wave of monsters that were coming out. I didn't fully recognize them as monsters till years later, but it was a new wave of something that I really loved. And now I realize it's almost the second generation of the Universal monsters with, Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers. It's really what we had going there, and I was part of it this time. Rather than I wasn't alive when the first wave of Universal monsters came out, and these weren't Universal, but they were the same idea. These group of monsters that they didn't because of licensing rules, but they could interact together feasibly in the stories. They certainly did later on in comics and stuff, where the licensing was easier to deal with. So there was sort of a resurgence in my life, and I picked up some comics at a grocery store up the rack. I thought, hey, this will be funny. I'll get a comic book. Read it, just fell back in love with the medium. Never looked back since on any of these, and not long, not terribly long after high school. I was maybe 22 when I met my ex-wife. And before I met her, we used to, hang out and party, a group of us. And I was always the one that would suggest, let's run to the haunted house down. And it was pretty far. It was maybe a 45-minute drive. And, before we'd get stoned or whatever, I'd be suggesting it, going, well, let's go there and get stoned and then go in. And then, because that's what everyone wanted to do, is just get high all the time and just hang out. High school, late high school, early college, that was it. That was life. You did your schoolwork, and then when it was done, you just wanted to hang and party. But, and we did our schoolwork. I mean, we weren't loser types. Everyone in our group was getting straight A's. It was like, nah, you don't get to get high until you get your homework done, type of idea. It was kind of a strange group if you really think about it. But yeah, we peer pressured people into doing well. I mean, they did. Everyone did. It was not cool to be a dropout. That was like a reward, being able to go, party. So I guess once we all went down to a haunt down in San Jose, and I thought it was fun. I laughed the whole time. That was the neatest thing. And I was just, that's okay. That's nothing exciting. So next year when I said yes, no one wanted to go. And I hadn't learned how much I like going to things myself. I mean, I was still kind of young. I thought that was not cool. But now I go out to dinner by myself. I go to movies by myself. I actually prefer it because that way I do exactly what I want, I don't mind the company of others when I go out. I enjoy it quite a bit as well. But if I want to go someplace and there's no one I know who wants to go, I don't even hesitate. I go. So it was a couple of years before I just went. After I ended up seriously dating the woman I would eventually marry, then divorce. And it was a mutual thing. I was a horrible husband. She was a horrible wife. We just were horrible. It was not a good match. But we went to a haunt, which was called World of Terror. It was their first year. It was held at a abandoned grocery store, and it terrified her to no end. And I've got this sideways. I've been 8 minutes and I didn't even notice this. I'm so sorry. Because I was just looking off and thinking about my stories. So we went to the haunt down in San Jose, and it was their first year, this new one called World of Terror. I thought it was great. She was terrified. The second year we didn't go, but we did go out with another couple, and again, it was that whole crap that I hate. We got there, the line was too long. I'm like, so what? Let's go. And the three of them voted against me, and I lose, and I don't get to go to this haunt, and it closed down that year after that, so I never got to see that one. And I was always kind of like, that sucks. We were supposed to go, But I got voted down. So finally, it was their third year. That was the second year of the World of Terror, but this was a different haunt. But the third year of World of Terror, we went with her father and her brother, and the ex-wife was there, and the father was from Mexico. He didn't understand. We tried to explain to him what a haunted house was, and the best I could do was, it's a museum with actors. And he said, huh? Okay. Because it is like a museum. There's sets of different, movies and whatnot. He thought it was the coolest thing ever. And we had a blast. So the next year when 4 comes around, I'm talking to them, and all said again, the father and even who loved it, the brother, like, oh, we went last year. It's, yeah, so what? We don't need to go again. I'm like, come on. And so finally I said, screw it. And I went by myself this time. And I was married at that time. I said, I don't care, you guys. I'm going. It was 2 years later that we got divorced, but I went and I had the funnest time going by myself. I didn't care. I liked it. And then when the next year came around, which would have been World of Terror 5, I went down, in about August or so, because I just wanted to find a flyer to see when it was going to be happening again, because I thought it was cool. I didn't care if people were going to join me anymore. I'm starting to learn that I don't mind going to movies alone, because I went to a lot of movies, because she wasn't into the stuff I was into. Batman Mask of the Phantasm would have come out at that time in the theaters. I think even Beetlejuice and a whole bunch of those. I'm like, let's go see this one. She goes, we should go see Beaches. I'm like, okay, we'll go see Beaches, and then, Saturday afternoon, I'm going to go watch Batman, screw it. So, and I had I was learning, that I didn't need people to have fun. So I went down to find out about the haunt, when it would be, and what hours and what days, and maybe people would go with me, maybe not, and I'd go alone. I didn't care. But it was on the door, instead of any information about the haunt, was a flyer that said, join us, and it was a date maybe 2 weeks away, towards the beginning of September. It said, join us for a volunteer recruitment picnic in our parking lot, because it was now at an abandoned mall. It was that was their permanent location, in an abandoned mall. And it was both stories, and the stairs worked, and it wasn't completely abandoned. It had a working nightclub in the mall, and that might have been the only thing that worked in the mall, and a restaurant. And they were in separate parts, but otherwise they had the entire mall empty. You went from empty store to empty store, and those were what they decorated as rooms. And I saw the sign, and I grabbed it, and said, I am coming to this party. And I went, and it changed my life for the next 10 years, and that's the next video.